All right, hopefully we're live. Hi, everybody. It's Chrisiosity, and I'm here with Dusty and Vadim. Dusty Smith, who...
Good evening.
Hello. And thank you so much for coming on my channel. It's really awesome.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I think I pissed you off on Twitter, so I owe you.
Yeah, that's all right.
I tend to do that to people on Twitter, so don't feel bad.
Well, oh, and yeah, well, you used to. That's sad.
Yeah, before. They're not going to ban me, I guess, so I guess I'm
They're
gone from
not?
Twitter forever. It doesn't look like it. The same people that went to bat for TJ have not gone to bat for me, so it doesn't look like they're going to unban me. So I guess I'm done with it. Oh, well. Let's go while it lasted.
Did you see? I sent you a screenshot of something that was supposed to help or would have helped. It's on Facebook. It's in your.
I got banned from
messages.
Facebook, too, so.
Oh, all right. Well, that would explain why you didn't get it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much banned from everywhere now, unfortunately. I have these guys that go around and they flag everything I do to try to get me erased from the internet, so.
Yeah, I was not divulging this until recently, but I nearly got the CC channel taken off of YouTube. I had 2 strikes, and I've seen a lot of channels recently who like will get 2 strikes and then all of a sudden they'll get a 3rd like within a week and they'll just be gone.
It's like you don't want to talk about it, because if you do, people will be like, well, he's almost gone. Let me go out there and false flag everything he does to try to get rid of him.
Exactly.
So you can't even fucking talk about it.
Yeah, which is why I did not discuss it. Fortunately, I was able to find someone who was able to get rid of those strikes. But man, and you mentioned this in one of your videos. You said that you scrubbed some old videos that you did. I scrubbed about 30 videos that CC did, and you know, CC videos are very involved. There's lots of editing. That's like a 1.5 years worth of work at least. So that felt like that literally felt like I was setting my living room on fire.
I know, man. I scrubbed millions of views of my videos, millions gone. So,
yeah.
But you know, what are you gonna do? They're false flagging everything we're doing to try to get rid of us, and we got to be careful. You know, once our channels are gone, I spent 10 years trying to build my channel up. I don't want to lose it. You know,
yeah,
250,000 subscribers is going to be really hard to get back. So I got to be careful. Unfortunately, it's a shit situation. That's for sure.
I mean, it's hard to tell, because the thing is that YouTube does have an algorithm that searches on its own. And like I've had videos on my other channel, which were unlisted, that got strikes. They were unlisted for like a year and they got strikes. So that's obviously not people flagging them. But then, you know, in this case, it could be the algorithm, but then also Sargon of Akkad had responded to a video that I did on him and the She-Ra reboot just days before I got that. So, I mean, I'm a little skeptical. I don't think, just for the record, I don't think that Sargon, even as much as I do not like that dude, I don't think that he would condone this, but I'm pretty sure that one of his minions, one of his fans, just mass flagged my shit.
They attract these trolls and shitheads, and they go out and flag everything we're doing. I don't like Shoe on Head. I'm pretty sure her fans are the ones that got me banned from Twitter, and I'm sure that she doesn't want me banned on Twitter. She doesn't want anything to do with that. But the material they're putting out is attracting these bottom feeders that feel like, oh, well, social justice warriors are doing it, so let's fight fire with fire and do exactly what they're doing. That's how they justify it to themselves.
Oh, and that's exactly what Sargon said. You know, like he said that to Curiosity, as a matter of fact. And it's such bullshit. It's like, I mean, first of all, by and large, the term SJW is ridiculous. But by and large, SJWs do not do that. But even if they did do that, then that's not a fucking excuse. Then you've got to be better than that. You know?
Right.
They're not.
Well, I'm like you. I'm in a lot of these groups that people call SJW groups. They're not really, but we get labeled that. Yeah. And I'm in there all the time. No one's ever talking about that. We're always talking about, you know, letting people say whatever they want to, not flagging people. we're not interested in that. You know, we're interested in letting people say what they want to say and, you know, have their freedom of speech. But
Yeah,
we don't get the same respect from that other side because we're labeled the enemy, and so they think they can just treat us like that and get away with it. And I guess they can, unfortunately.
Well, they often take criticism as basically anti-free speech. So if you're saying to them, well, I think that thing that you said was racist, they take that as you're attacking their free speech, right?
Like they're being oppressed. You're oppressing them by criticizing them.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, you know, it's just garbage. And sure, there are some people who are gonna do whatever. They're gonna be people who complain. They're gonna be people who boycott something or whatever. But that's all of that stuff is not necessarily even falling into the realm of what a free speech concern would be. And there's so much of that it's just like, how am I supposed to take you seriously? You just bitch about anything.
Exactly. You have the right to protest. You know, people protesting you is not a violation of your free speech. That's part of free speech. You know, protest is American as apple pie, but they act like, oh, they're protesting these speakers. And so they're trying to shut down my free speech. No, them protesting your speakers is not trying to shut down your free speech. It's them exercising their free speech. You know, shutting down your free speech. If they actually went in and, you know, stopped you from talking, now that would be a violation. But if they're just protesting the speakers you have, that's not a violation of your free speech.
And I don't think we bring up very often, but there's a lot of weirdness about this whole platforming. It's such a grift, right? Like, when I think Milo was a very good example of when this was going on. You know, he was clearly trying to get people pissed off beforehand. Like, he wasn't, you know, he was saying, I'm going to out trans students. I'm going to dox people who are here, who are immigrants, you know, like things that you know are going to piss people off and get them really riled up, especially if they're on the left. So it's like, it's not as if they were saying, we want a good faith engagement of ideas here, and we want to come out and just talk about our ideas. No, they were like, we need to see people out there yelling so that we can put this on YouTube and make a gajillion views out of it.
They could play the victim. That's all they're trying to do is play the victim and make money off. They're trying to monetize SJWs, as Jordan Peterson would say. It's exactly what they're doing.
There's some truth to, like, I mean, they're successful at it. It's like, on one hand, I agree with you, Dusty, that these people are just mainly exercising their own free speech by protesting these people, but I do agree that, like, for the most part, they should leave. I mean, in rare cases, I condone it, but for the most part, I wish these people would just leave these fucking people alone, not give them any attention. And,
I totally agree. 100% agree. All you're doing is helping them. You're feeding right into exactly what they want you to do. The best thing you could possibly do is to ignore them. I was just pointing out they're protesting you is not a violation of free speech. You know, it's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they shouldn't do it, though. You know, you just let them speak. Let them say what the fuck they want to. And then, you know, we can make videos and counter them.
Like on one hand, I sort of understand it, because the thing is like if there was if I went to a college and there was some total loathsome piece of shit who was speaking there, you start feeling like, you know, this college represents me to some extent. I chose to go to this college, and this college, I thought this college had a certain set of values, you know, so I can sort of get on board with it in a way. But then, yes, just at the end of the day, you're going to make them look good and give them exactly what they want. So,
well, I mean, it's like, if I spent $60,000 a year to go to some fucking college, and they brought in somebody to tell me that climate change wasn't real and lesbians are full of shit and mean and fat and want to take away your manhood, like, I would be kind of pissed. And they're paying that person. Like, I'm paying you so you could pay some asshole to come in here and just tell me bullshit. Like,
well, that's a totally different aspect of it. I completely agree with that. I think Tim made this point in a video that he made a couple years ago, where like, yeah, like, you know, there's an excellent argument to be made with someone like Milo, who spreads all sorts of conspiracies, who is a climate change denier, who spreads conspiracies on everything from literally Pizzagate to like abortion, like old ass abortion conspiracies involving Planned Parenthood and stuff. I mean, just he runs the gamut of bullshit. And like, yeah, the colleges have no obligation in my mind to actually give him a platform due to the fact that he is just so full of shit. Like, I think that they have an argument just by virtue of the fact that this is a learning institution and we don't stand behind people who, you know, just propagate lies like this.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Jordan Peterson situation too. A lot of the students in school, they were all labeled as crazy SJWs who were just trying to shut down his free speech, but a lot of them were actually mad because he was going out there saying that Bill C-16 was going to make criticizing somebody's dress hate speech. You know, to make fun of a trans person's clothing, you could be charged with hate speech crimes. And if you actually go look, the stuff he was saying was creating a huge amount of backlash and hate towards trans people on both YouTube and Twitter. So a lot of these students there were like, you know, we're paying for this college. We don't want to be associated with this guy who's going out and lying about this bill and is causing a backlash of hate against trans students. So I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, they played right into his hands, and he went on to make what he's making like $150,000 a month off Patreon. So it's like it's a difficult subject, really.
Two things about Jordan Peterson that I want to share. One is in relation to that. I think a really good factoid for everyone to know. I think it's really good to kind of like if you encounter someone who gives you resistance about Bill C-16 and really buys Jordan Peterson's point of view. A lot of people don't know this, but the Canadian Bar Association put out a statement about Bill C-16 as a whole and talked about every aspect of it. And they addressed his bullshit about, like, you know, it requiring certain pronoun usage and it being a violation of freedom of speech. And they say that it's a complete misconception. So you really have to say, who do you trust? Do you trust someone like Jordan Peterson, who has absolutely no, you know, law degree whatsoever, no schooling in that subject? Or do you trust the Canadian Bar Association, which represents 36,000 lawyer professionals in fucking Canada? So there's that. And then the other thing, this is totally unrelated, but I think this is hilarious. I saw a clip where he claimed that, like, you know, because he has this daughter who has an all beef diet, which is like so disgusting and clearly like a hack, like just a grift. And he was, I saw a clip of him talking to Joe Rogan saying that that while he was on this diet, he had just a glass of
cider, apple cider or something.
Apple cider to sleep for 25 days, according to him. The dude's a fucking pathological liar.
And he's like, that's why he got his ass kicked by Sam Harris in that debate, because of the apple cider he drank. Basically, he was blaming it on that.
Yeah.
It's so, like, I look at that and I'm like, dude, you're practically Donald Trump. You lie so much. It's ridiculous.
And it's funny what you're saying about the Bill 616 and the Canadian Bar Association, because I actually made a video about that, and I had conversations with some of his fans about that. And I asked them, you know, who do you trust? The most trusted legal body in all of Canada, or Jordan Peterson, a psychology professor who has no legal training whatsoever? And I had several of them tell me, I trust Jordan Peterson more than I trust the Canadian Bar Association.
I've had people do the same thing with me. Like their excuse is always like, well, you know, these institutions have been so overrun with SJWs. That's always like, I mean, it's kind of like the way that conspiracy theorists will say, like, oh, well, you know, they're just part of the Illuminati. It's the exact same.
It's a cult. You know, he has his own cult. That's what it is exactly.
It's not just like, I'm sorry, like I lost my train of thought all of a sudden, but it's just, all right, well, like, take over.
Okay.
I completely lost it.
We're talking about the Canadian Bar Association and Bill C-16. Another thing people don't know is that these laws have been already passed in most of Canada for like almost a decade now. You know, they passed it all of Canada with Bill 616, but they were already passed in most of the territories for years already. And not a single person had ever been treated as Jordan Peterson claimed they would be, you know. And even in Ontario, where he teaches, the law had already been passed there for almost a decade, I think. And no one had ever tried to force him to call a trans person by a funny name, or he's going to be fired, or anything that he claimed would happen had never happened to him. So it's clear from the history, if you just look into it, that exactly what he was saying was just, it's a grift, basically. He's just trying to, he saw an opportunity to jump in this whole SJW hysteria thing and make a lot of money and get a lot of attention for himself, which he was trying to do for a long time. If you look into it, he's been trying to get attention for a long time on the internet, and he finally figured out how to do it. You know, he basically took the Sargon route, you know, and realized that there's a lot of money to be made in the anti-SJW hysteria market, and got to hand it to him, man. He's done a great job killing it.
I do think that there's something kind of wrong with him. Like, I don't know what it is. You know, when you watch him, it goes beyond that, though. It's kind of like there's a part of him that really believes his own garbage. Whether it's, I don't know if it's the Christian garbage that he really believes, something like...
It's like I think he's chosen. He's been supernaturally chosen. And
yeah,
he's been granted this knowledge by God. He's actually written a letter to his family before, talking about how he thinks he's come across some of the greatest discoveries in history, and he's figured this stuff out like no one ever has before. And if you read it, it really seems like he thinks that, you know, he's been dictated by God.
It's weird though, because he like seems to not have like at a certain point I've read that he, how can I put it? He sort of believes in God, but he does not believe in like the traditional Christian God, even though that he talks about the Christian God very often. Like he's more into the Christian God as like myth and whatnot. And I look at him as someone, I could be wrong, but I think that he's someone who was very religious in that traditional sense for a very long time, and then like lost that aspect of his belief, and it really hurt him. And yet he still has, so maybe this isn't totally making sense, but I think he still has some sort of semblance of, like, he's struggling to like make it make sense somehow. And so he like I don't know, I sense that from him. And
so much of his life,
I think he's a manic depressive. Anyway, go on.
I was gonna say so much of his life work is based off the Bible. You know, his book Maps of Meaning, which took like 6 years to write, I think, is you know, rooted in this biblical theory that he has. And so to give it up would mean that so much of his life work is, you know, for naught, you know, is a sham. So I don't think he can give it up for that reason. Sorry, I have lots of dogs here.
No problem. Yeah, it's the whole, this dragon of chaos and all this sort of Jungian, but also Christian. It just, I came, a lot of people who are sort of atheists or agnostic came from Christianity. I came from sort of the woo world. New Age, that sort of thing.
I actually, to tell you the truth.
Which, you know, I think is actually a lot less harmful in many ways, and probably why I'm not as angry as some people are. But I do recognize this sort of goofy, you can put anything you want into it. It's just like a horoscope. You can just, you know, if you sit there and read this nonsense, it can make you decide, oh, I get it. This guy is speaking to me. And if I don't 100% understand everything that he's saying, well, that's just because he's a genius.
Yeah,
must be.
That's how they feel. He's so brilliant. His word salad is genius. I just don't understand it, but I just know it's fucking amazing.
Another thing about that guy that just really, I think, encapsulates what a joke he is the fact that he's supposedly an academic, and he often kind of derides SJW types for supposedly being anti-science. Yet at the same time, I mean, there's a number of other things besides this that you can point to, but he's a climate change denier.
Yeah, he is.
You know?
Absolutely
he's a
is.
fucking climate change denier.
Yep.
And the fact that he does not have the brains to look at the overwhelming level of evidence that we have, all of the peer-reviewed evidence that we have. I mean, anyone who's an academic should be able to look at that and be able to like figure it out. So either like he's a fucking moron, or he's grifting on behalf of, like, you know, the people who give him money. So one of the two.
I think he's just so ensconced in his conservatism that he doesn't really give a shit. You know, he just whatever feeds the narrative. So, and you know, climate denial feeds right into his, you know, conservative TredCon. So I think that's what it boils down to, a lot of it.
I don't know. I feel like one of the biggest problems with Christianity now is I do think that there are a lot of people out there who believe that, sure, climate change, God's going to fix it. You know, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, senators have said that before, you know.
I do think that that's like the plan for a lot of people.
They think mankind is arrogant for thinking we could destroy the earth. You know, how can mankind destroy something God created? That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, you know, unfortunately, God didn't create this, so we're kind of on our own here to make the best of it.
We're fucked.
We are pretty fucked, unfortunately.
We're completely fucked.
And Donald Trump easing all the coal laws. I mean, his own government says that his easing of these laws are going to kill thousands of people, and he's like, coal. It'll get a few people jobs for a couple of decades. So who cares shit about the people it kills, you know?
Sure, it will. That's what he doesn't care about anything but money. That bastard.
It's all about money. That's what conservatism is usually about, though. Everything breaks down to a dollar sign, even human lives. That's why we have, you know, our medical system like it is. Human lives are a dollar. That's all it's about.
So that's depressing. I should do you know Lindsay Shepherd, who's Jordan Peterson's little sort of a protege of his now at this point, I think.
Yes, the lawyer girl.
Right. So she had gone in and she had done like a class and played him, and she got in trouble, and she recorded the people that
the morons. They were
morons.
morons.
Yeah, they were kind of badgering her, and she recorded it and she put it out, and she was crying, and people were like, "Oh, these guys, these administrators or whoever they were, professors, they were assholes, and they hate freedom of speech and all of that." So she became kind of a free speech person. Now she's suing them. Jordan Peterson is suing them. This is Laurier University, I believe. And at the same time, she just put out a tweet. I wish I had it right in front of me, saying the porn tweet. Oh my God. Like porn. No, that's bad. We've got to get rid of that shit. There's got to be laws.
Fuck that shit.
So
you can take my porn when you pry from my cold, sticky hand, you know?
She said something like, I would never date a man who watched porn, and I never will. And, you know, Tom Norway, is that what he goes by? Or Peter Norway?
Peter Norway.
He was in our chat group that I wish you were still a part of, Cole. I mean, Dusty. And I think he retweeted her and said, "I got news for you. You already have, and you will again." You know,
yeah, you are right now, no doubt about it.
The guy that watched porn, because nearly all guys have watched.
Yeah, there are two types of people: guys that watch porn and liars. That's the only two types to do. The weird thing about the Lindsay Shepherd situation, though, is the stupid ass professors who were needling her were actually misrepresenting Bill C-16 to her in the same way Jordan Peterson misrepresented it. So it's almost like they got their talking points from him to begin with, which makes them even bigger idiots.
Yeah, that wasn't a win.
No, definitely not. That was not a win for the libs.
Well, you know, it's really frustrating because it's like I I don't know. Like, I haven't been on a college campus in a long time. I have talked with a lot of people who are in college, and a lot of people tell me that, like, you know, yeah, there's this small section that's really bad, but it's not nearly as bad as people say it is. So it's just like, you know, I mean, this is not any, you know, crazy news to you guys, but like all of these stories really are just kind of these anomalies that occur within our colleges that these anti-SJWs kind of, you know, glom onto and try and make it look like it's way more representative of the whole than it actually is.
Well, they've done studies that have shown that people who go to college are actually more in favor of free speech than people that don't go to college. You know,
Yes.
People that are non-college goers, they are not nearly as supportive of it as college goers. So this idea that colleges are just these liberal cesspools that are trying to shut down everybody's free speech and
not only that, they've also done some I believe it might have been the same poll that you're talking about. They determined that not by a huge margin, but left-wingers are more tolerant of free speech overall than right-wingers. And there was another poll that was done by, I think it was the Cato Institute, or maybe it was some Koch brothers funded poll that was really, the methodology was really shitty, and it showed kind of the opposite. But that's, again, because it was a Koch brothers poll, and they had, you know, I mean, I forget the details, but if you look at the methodology, it was just all skewed. So, yeah, that's definitely a misconception as well.
I think that, you know, I really want to hammer home that these people who are swearing up and down they're free speech and absolutists are not. That not only are they not free speech absolutists, they're not. If they were in power, as we see with Trump, you know, they will go after speech and other freedoms every which way they possibly can, you know, and they'll be shutting down doctors. They'll be putting in policies and doing really serious things. This isn't about yelling at some asshole speaker and calling them a racist. This is about saying, nope, if you believe in climate change, you can't get your EPA grant and that sort of thing. That's serious shit that has a real impact in the world that's not getting on a YouTube video. You know, nobody gives a shit, but it's there.
Oh, yeah. No, well, you go ahead. I have a point to make too.
It's also not like all these Christian schools are inviting like evolutionists and atheists to speak at them, you know. So if a more liberal school doesn't want an evolution denier or somebody that's going to be against trans rights to come speak, you know, how is that any different than these Christian schools not inviting me to speak, or, you know, somebody who's more liberal with a controversial opinion? But it's kind of a double standard they hold.
Yeah, there are all these different ways that the right wing, and I'm not even like trying to kind of like create some sort of I don't know, some sort of competition here as to like who is more censorious. But it's like there are all these ways that the right wing is censorious that, you know, I don't even think 90% of these anti-SJWs, or probably more than 90%, are even aware of. Like, for instance, there are all these bills that have been introduced that are trying to limit, you know, freedom of assembly, freedom of, or not assembly, but, you know, what's the word? Protest. And then there's also, there are all these Christian schools. I talked about it in a CC video that had to do with PragerU, but there are all these Christian schools that have incredibly strict codes. And on one hand, you could say these are private schools, you know, they should be able to do that, but they received tax dollars, they received Pell Grants and shit like that. So in my opinion, they really shouldn't be able to do that. And not only that, a lot of these schools, I forget what it's called, but there's some sort of like exemption that hundreds of them have that allow them to just kick out students who happen to be gay, if they have sex. I mean, like there's all these rules that they can make, and they can just cut, you know, just kick you out without really like much warning because of this. And I've even heard, like I read an article on it, and there was someone who went to Brigham Young who said that, like, yeah, like girls can get raped and they feel kind of, you know, like they can't come forward because there's this no sex rule and they don't know what to do. So there's all these ways that, you know, the right are really kind of just not brought to task on these things. And it really pisses me off because it's like we're made to look like these evil First Amendment hating people, you know, and it's so far from the truth.
A big part of it is that we are appreciating the nuances of the issue of free speech. Like, it's not simple. People have struggled with this in countries and governments, and even people who really want as much free speech as possible. When you start putting it down into onto the ground, you know, sort of the rubber meeting the road, you understand it gets pretty fucking complicated pretty quickly. So if I invite somebody in who is going to use the N-word, who's going to rile up sort of KKK speech and be racist and whatever, and that sort of puts a pall on Black students and makes them worried about coming forward, say, because they think, I'm in this very racist place, I'm not going to speak up, then that's affecting their free speech. So if I have this very, you know, it's the whole paradox of tolerance bit, that if I have these very intolerant people, they're going to be oppressive to other people. So I have to sort of consider that and put that in mind. I have to consider things like whether or not I'm infringing on somebody else's rights to hear things or to feel safe, you know. But we figured this out. Like, nobody's going to the library and shrieking the N-word, or going to town hall and, you know, screaming about trans people or gay people. They'd be carted out of there in a minute by the cops, right? And yeah, we all live with that horrible, oppressive government interference in our lives, like, without even caring about it, because unlike the internet, we don't have an expectation there. But why would it be different?
Kind of like the Alex Jones situation too reminds me of, you know, it's different when you're lying about murdered children and getting in multi-million-dollar lawsuits. You know, at that point, nobody has the obligation to platform you, you know, and nobody in their right mind would platform him and risk getting pulled into that lawsuit. But there's a lot of people that think, no, regardless of what he says and what he does and million-dollar lawsuits and lying about dead children, YouTube should still platform him regardless. And I think that's ridiculous, you know. They have no obligation to do that.
YouTube will get sued up the fucking wazoo.
Exactly.
Did they want to keep their fucking, you know, company?
Who in the world would want to be in a courtroom with the grieving parents of dead children testifying against you? You know, who would want to roll the dice on that? Nobody would. And anybody out there who says, "Oh, I would play that Alex Jones regardless," no, you wouldn't. Bullshit. If you had even a small chance of getting a multi-million-dollar lawsuit filed against you, you wouldn't platform it either, you liar.
You know what this sort of reminds me of? You know, this whole topic. One thing that I've thought a lot about in the past year is, you know, there was, of course, the Count Dankula. Some people looked at that as not being a joke. I happen to look at it as kind of a joke and really poor taste.
Yeah, he's an idiot, but it's just a joke. It's a stupid joke, but it's a joke.
I felt like he had every right to do it, and he should not have had the repercussion that he had. Then there was also PewDiePie, who made what I also thought was a joke. You know, I was totally, you know, again, I don't think it was the height of comedy, but I definitely, like, I'm on his side. Like I would fight for his right to have made that, and I think that the whole, like, you know, the whole circus around it was ridiculous. But then you have this guy, I forget how to pronounce his last name, George Chicharillo, or he was a he was a professor, and he had kind of like lefty leanings. Like, I think he might even have been like legit communist. And around Christmas of last year, he or like the end of 2016, he tweeted out, all I want for Christmas is white genocide. And
Yes.
yeah. And it was a total joke. Like, you know, like his follow-up to it, it was really obvious. Like he, first of all, he happened to be someone who specialized in genocides. So like, you know, everybody here is familiar that, you know, knows that white genocide is an actual like conspiracy theory hatched by white supremacists and whatnot. So what he was really trying to do is he was trying to say, fuck you, white supremacists.
Mocking them, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he went on and he like even clarified that. And he made a follow-up joke, which was very like, you know, you kind of had to know like history behind certain genocides to like really understand it. Like once I wikied it, I was like, okay, this sort of makes sense. But my fucking point here is that Sargon of Akkad made a video where he was just, you know, totally like right-wing SJWing out on it, and just you know, like his whole, one of his like reasons like why he knew that it was serious was because he had a follow-up joke. He had a follow-up tweet that resembled it, and he was like, look at this, you know, at first I thought maybe it wasn't serious, but then he said a second thing. And it's like, that's kind of like saying like, you know, a comedian wasn't trying to crack a joke because he made a second, you know, it just makes no fucking sense if you really think about it. And so, you know, just I find that whole situation so amazing because there were so many free speech warriors who wanted his blood. There were all these people who normally were on his side, on Sargon's side, who were totally just like, yeah, fucking get him, fire him. And he even started a petition. He started a petition not to fire him, but to have a camera present at the proceedings, because like the college announced that they were going to have like some sort of disciplinary discussion with him. And so he had a petition that was like, let's have a camera there because we need to know that he isn't actually like a maniac who actually wants, the guy is fucking white. So you have to like assume dude like literally wants his entire family and himself to like be genocided. It doesn't make any fucking goddamn sense, you know? And just, I don't know, like the levels of hypocrisy there are so rich, and the fact that they can like stand behind certain people in situations where they should, when people are clearly making a joke, but then can't do it when it's the other team. I think it just says so much about them.
It's about defending white men and those who are speaking in the interests of white men. When do they defend anybody else?
Well, this actually goes into my next video I'm going to do, and it's about the most popular anti-SJW group on Facebook. And if you actually go there, I mean, it is the biggest group of bottom feeders you'd ever imagine, and it's incredible. They're incredibly racist. I mean, it's calling like rap music monkey music, like straight out calling black people monkeys, stuff like that, over and over and over again. And you'll also see them, they'll post something about somebody saying like a joke about white people or making fun of white people. And it could be somebody who's being racist towards white people, but they'll use that as an excuse to be like, well, this is why I'm not a liberal anymore. This is why I'm not liberal anymore, because they're going crazy over there making fun of white people. But in their own group, they're continuously being racist against black people. And they never take these little racist snippets out from their own group and say, hey, this is how all conservatives are. This is why I'm not conservative anymore. You know, it's a huge double standard.
They don't, they don't care. Like as many times as we've pointed out the hypocrisy, they don't care. Because I don't know if it's just that they are so, they really don't see the hypocrisy because they're so invested in their own sort of white dude identity politics that it doesn't even occur to them that the other people count too as much as they do. Or
social justice warrior hysteria has turned these people into, you know, they're just so freaked out now. They literally think that these blue-haired college kids are the greatest threat on the planet. And they're so freaked out by it that they can't even see the hypocrisy. You know, they don't really give a shit about it because they've labeled the other side the enemy so heavily that that's all they can see now.
Yeah.
Mm.
I really think that a lot of the a lot of this was spearheaded. Maybe I'm going to start sounding a little conspiratorial here, but you had Milo who came into Gamergate, and he was, if you look at his writings on Breitbart, he was literally shitting on gamers just literally a couple weeks before Gamergate started. Like right around that time was when what was the name of that mass murderer who really hated women, and he was very young.
I can't think of his name though. He's like a hero to the incels now though.
Yeah. Total incel. And he was from California. He was
Oh, Elliot Rogers.
Yes, yeah. Elliot Rogers. So basically, like he wrote an article that blamed Elliot Rogers' killings on gaming, like just a couple of weeks before he waltzed into Gamergate. And it's like he got into Gamergate, and I know some people who were sort of, I don't want to say friends, but were like acquaintances of him around the time that he came into Gamergate and started kind of gaining a presence in the anti-SJW world. And he was a part of Breitbart, and you got to remember that what's his face from the Trump administration,
Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon was a whole was his boss. And I really do think, Steve Bannon, even though that he is a loathsome piece of shit, he really is very smart when it comes to branding and marketing. And I think that they really saw an opportunity right there. I think that they realized we can take this. We can run with this if we can just get we've got a hook here. If we get these people to kind of buy into our bullshit, we can set them against the left. Again, maybe I'm starting to sound a little conservative.
No, Bannon owned a company, and it was one of these companies that would farm out, people were sitting there going into World of Warcraft and farming shit for hours and hours so that they could sell it, and then they would make actual money because people would buy it, right?
Oh.
For people who understand gaming, that probably made sense. For people who didn't, that made no sense at all, probably.
I used to do that for a living, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, he had a whole lot of these people doing shit like that. And some other gamers were really pissed off about it because, of course, that gives an unfair advantage to the people who are willing to just spend money to get the best shit, as opposed to going out and grinding it and doing the thing that you do if you're
playing the game.
A nerd. Okay, I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I've played World of Warcraft. We all know this is fine. But so anyway, they went after his business, and they really fucked it up. I think it ended up getting closed down or whatever, because I can't remember all the details. I can hunt this story down afterwards, but I remember watching it and going, shit, this is really interesting. But he realized then and there that there was a lot of angry young men who had nothing to do. And they could be weaponized.
It doesn't sound conspiratorial to me at all, because for the very little time that I was in the alt-right or alt-right or whatever you want to call it, when I was pissed off that the Democratic Party fucked over Bernie, so I was willing to give Trump a chance, and I was in the Donald subreddit every single day reading them. The reason I turned my back on that whole thing, because I realized what Steve Bannon and them were doing, and what they were doing was they were trying to distract people from the issues by demonizing liberals. Because if they distract people from the actual issues, that's the only way they can possibly win. If they talk about the issues, they get killed, because it's Trump. Everything he does is fucking garbage. But if they fucking distract the populace by giving them this boogeyman, this SJW boogeyman, then they can win. And that's exactly what they did. And that's what I came out against. I saw the skeptic community turning into this megaphone for the Donald subreddit, where all they did is regurgitate these memes and talking points day in and day out, going out and finding the minutia on the left, the crazy idiots they could to make fun of, and then putting them on YouTube and making fun of them to millions and millions of people, and stirring up all these angry young men mostly until they believe, and as they do many of them to this day, that SJWs are the greatest threat on the planet. And that's where we're still at today.
You know what it is that it's basically a nerd wedge issue. You know, like what wedge issues are? It's like abortion is this issue that the Republicans use in order to, and I guess guns to a certain degree. I mean, these are important issues, but they kind of pale in comparison. Well, I don't want to say that abortion totally pales in comparison, because it's a very important right for women to have. But it's like by focusing on abortion and certain other things, it's like they get the Republican Party to completely forget about, like, you know, the how their tax system is going to fuck them over, and all these other different ways that they're not going to benefit from voting Republican. And so I think that, like, kind of making SJWs into some like scary group becomes like a wedge issue for people that don't give a shit about abortion, for people who don't give a shit about, I mean, maybe some of those people care about guns, but do you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
There has to be something, right? Though, like, I don't want to say that because it's so stupid. Like, I have people who will still tell me about Big Red pulling a fire alarm. It's like, is that really? That was like 8 years ago in Canada. Somebody pulled a fucking fire alarm, and you're still worried about that?
Did Big Red do that?
I can't. I believe it was either. I think it was a group she was with. So my apologies to Chanty Banks if I have. But she was part of like this group, and the MRAs came in, and there was a lot of going back and forth with them, and, you know, a fire alarm got pulled. And I will to this day hear about the feminists who pulled fire alarms and shut down the speech of the poor innocent men's rights activists. It's like, yeah, 8 years ago in fucking Canada. Why should I care now?
Meanwhile, they're giving billionaires tax cuts, and the wealth inequality has never been worse. You know, the real issues that affect their lives, and they're worried about this stupid minutia because they saw a shoe on head talk about it in a YouTube video. You know, and that's where we're at right now, unfortunately.
Yep.
But the rich have always been extremely good about getting idiots to vote against their own best interests. You know, and let them keep more and more of their money. So it's no wonder that they've weaponized YouTube the way they have.
Well, you know, one thing that is really interesting to me is, like, if you look at the skeptic / atheist community, it really got big around 2008 or maybe 2009, 10. And the reason was because there was a real need for it. There was the George Bush administration, which, I mean, I guess this is before 2008, because 2008 was around the time that Obama was whenever the fuck it was a little earlier than that. And there was a need for it because, you know, the creationists and just a lot of evangelical forces were kind of encroaching into politics and trying to change our laws and our education system and stuff like that. So there was a real need for it. And what's really fucked up is that the need right now, in my opinion, is actually even greater than it was back then, because that Donald Trump is pandering to these evangelicals. A lot of people are not paying attention to it, but he's fucking doing it. And, you know, and then you've got like Sessions creating a religious task force, and just there's so many things in play. The judges that are going to be appointed and stuff like that, who may, if not overturn Roe v. Wade, really kind of fuck shit up with abortion rights. I mean, there's all these things going on, and we don't have a decent amount, at least, of real skeptics out there, really kind of like, you know, tolling the alarm bell. And I don't know if that's the right term, but yeah, just you guys get what I'm saying. And
we're considered
really
the enemy now. Those of us who have been pointing it out are considered the enemy now by them. You know, we've been demonized, like all the big YouTubers. They demonized the shit out of me. They went and took things that I said out of context and ruined my reputation. My channel still hasn't recovered from all the lies they told about me, just for simply pointing this out. You know, the SJWs are not our greatest threat right now. The fucking evangelicals, 81% of them voted for Trump. What they're doing is much more damaging to you, you know, and you're out there voting against your own best interests, and you're caught up in this fucking minutia. And I'm the fucking enemy for saying this now. You know, I'm, like I said, I'm banned from Twitter, banned from Facebook. They're trying to get me banned from everywhere just for trying to stand up and say, we need you guys more than ever now. We need the skeptic community more than we ever have. You know, and it's been decimated. The skeptic community is fucking as dead as a bucket of fried chicken now.
It's really sad, because it's like even people who at one time were like kind of figureheads who were really fucking awesome have devolved to garbage. I mean, like Michael Shermer, like he's called Stephen Molyneux one of the most, I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but not by much. He said he's like one of the most important skeptics in that we have. The dude's a cult leader, a climate change denier, and says bullshit about race and IQ. Lots of other stuff you could say about him, and then on top of that, he published a favorable review of Milo's book in Skeptic magazine,
and he's all over Peterson's nuts too.
Yeah,
so it's really depressing.
It's really, and there's so many of these people, like the guy you're going to be talking to, Peter Boghossian.
Yeah.
He did a foreword for Stephen Molyneux in one of his books, and he will like bitch all the time about like SJWs and people in like feminist college classes and whatnot. But he'll, you know, like he'll gladly do the foreword of a Stephen Molyneux book. Fuck you! Like you don't give a shit about what's true.
This segues perfectly into Mythicist Milwaukee too. You know? Exactly. The new skeptic community. It's all this anti-SJW circle jerk. That's what it's become, and it's, you know, it's incredibly sad to see.
Well, the question that I have, and the reason I'm going, I guess, is to find out: is there a possibility of redeeming this shit? Like, is this just a foregone bunch of assholes that are going to be, I don't know, just going down the race and IQ tunnel as far as they can go, and patting themselves on the back for not letting women pick on them with their, you know, not wanting to be sexually harassed things? Like, what's gonna what is it? How do we fix this mess that we're in and get people on track?
I think Mythicist Milwaukee is just gone. You know, I think they're going to eventually ruin their reputation. Like, if they ask me to go next year, I won't go. You know, after the way they treated me this year, I'm not going to support them anymore. You know, I think they're. Go ahead.
Well, I need to ask them a question. I'm supposed to have a, you know, like be on their podcast. And I really want to know if they really still look at the event as being some sort of, you know, just a meeting that endorses skepticism and that is about rationality and shit like that. Because like the way that I look at it is that they're kind of, and some of this is out of their hands. I can elaborate on what I mean by that, but. Like, they're kind of a it seems like a wannabe Politicon. Like, you know what Politicon is? Like they'll have like Shank talking to, I don't know, Ann Coulter or somebody. But that works because you have equal, like the audience is equally left and right. And the people who are talking there are like, you know, they're all heavyweights, like talking with one another. And as much as, you know, as I would like to say that the Creationist Cat channel is big time, I mean, I have very few fucking subscribers compared to somebody like either Sargon or Armored Skeptic, you know? So and it's like every left winger who's there, the biggest left winger is Richard Carrier, or like the most well known. I mean, I don't know. Would you agree that Chrisiosity, that he's the most well known out of all of us?
Yes. Yes.
That is really sad. And like the dude is, I mean, maybe we'll talk about this later, but yeah, he's like, none of us are happy that he is representing us. So
hey, I think I would have been the most popular one if they would let me speak.
I wanted to get you in, man. I really wanted to get you in. And I think there were just some people who really did believe that you were going to, and I said, look, I think he'll take this seriously. But I think their belief was that you were just going to like troll and not take anything seriously.
The first thing, I did start trolling them, but they blacklisted me before I started trolling them. You know, they didn't blacklist me because I was trolling them. I trolled them because they blacklisted me first. And then after they did that, I was frustrated. I'm like, fuck, if you guys aren't going to give me a platform or invite me to speak, because godless bitch, I don't know if you know this is, but she's been in public bragging that she's the one that told them to blacklist me. So they decided well before I even started trolling them in public that they weren't going to invite me and let me speak. And I think the main reason they don't want me to speak is they think that I will make the other anti-SJW speakers uncomfortable. And it's clear they don't want me there. It's clear people like Blair White and Armored Skeptic and Shoe on Head and Sorry, they don't want me there, you know. And so they want to keep their big headliners happy. And I think that's the main reason I didn't get an invite. And so they can use the whole fact that afterwards I trolled them as an excuse. But no, they blacklisted me well before I started trolling them over it.
It's a little uncomfortable. I mean, I guess Chrisiosity, you can relate for sure. But it's like, I know that I'm stepping into this with so many people disliking me. I mean, Shu has me blocked. So does Blair White. And I guess for good reason, you know. I mean, I am critical of people. No, not
good reason.
Not for good reason. Actually, no. I just mean for good reason, because I know that they're very sensitive people, and
snowflakes.
They can't take criticism. So it makes sense, basically, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
But it's just. It's, you know, like I do want to have both, like it's a weird thing, because on one hand I want to get up there and I want to tell people what I think is full of shit, what I think is broken, and whatnot. Yet at the same time, I don't want to alienate myself. I don't want to alienate people from actually hearing what I'm saying. I don't want to do a repeat, even though that I didn't feel like he did anything wrong like a lot of people did. I don't want to do a repeat of what happened between Sargon and Thomas Smith. But that might happen, you know? It might happen where I am just kind of truthful in what I have to say, and I am kind of made into the big bad SJW. I don't know. And
but they put you on a panel, right? They're not letting you speak solo. You got to speak on a panel, right?
I'm in a panel, and to tell you the truth, I'm in a panel for the most part with far better people than Sargon. I'm with Armored Skeptic, who I am certainly like critical of, but I do not regard him like he is not on the same level of Sargon at all. No. Jacqueline, who I actually get along with, that is Jacqueline Glenn. We don't see eye to eye on everything, but I think we get along pretty well and see eye to eye on most topics. Then also there's this guy, Godless Spell Checker, and he's probably the person who I think I'm going to disagree with the most. Like, he is a Ruben fan, apparently, and he has made I think this is such a piss poor defense, but he's someone who like defends Milo by saying he's not racist, he has a black husband, which which I think is the equivalent of saying like he's not a misogynist white. Like he couldn't beat his wife. He's married.
He promised to love, honor, and cherish her, so that's what he's gonna do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That reminds me of the white nationalist guy that got the Asian wife. They're like popular in the white nationalist scene. So like he can't be racist against Asian, you know? He's got an Asian wife, but he's a white nationalist. I mean, she's a bigger idiot than he is, clearly, but.
Well, there is a sort of a known thing within the white nationalist groups that
Asians don't count.
Well, and keep in mind, because people are often very confused about this, like Japan was on the side of the Nazis, if people remember. Like they went to Nazi camps to learn how to do certain military maneuvers. So it's not like there's nothing there, like historically, that it is in there. Like eventually, I'm sure if Hitler had gotten his way, they were gonna be a target. But at the same time, he often said things about how China had a great ancient culture. And so there's this sort of weird thing that goes on with sort of white supremacists and white nationalists, and particularly, and this is very, very racist in many ways, they fetishize Asian women.
Mm-hmm.
And they, you know, it's not respectful. It's not loving or nurturing or kind. It's about having a person that you have fetishized and objectified completely in your mind, but marrying that person. It's not, or dating that person. It is not a cool thing. Like, and I'm trying to say this in the most delicate way possible so that it doesn't, because I don't want to insult. I know it's a very sensitive topic, is what I'm saying.
They're also really heavily into the IQ thing too. You know, the race realism, IQ statistics, which, you know, Asians tend to score higher on. So I think that also helps them to see Asians in a more favorable light. On top of the whole fetish thing. I was married to an Asian woman for like 17 years, so.
But I'd like to know, Christiosity, how you, what I was talking about earlier about the kind of, because I am, you know, I do want to have this somewhat productive experience, yet at the same time, I want to be real. And I'm also, to be perfectly honest, I'm intimidated by, with me, I feel like to a certain extent, it's going to be 4-on-1, even though that Jacqueline and I get along pretty well. I know that some of the topics that we're going to be talking about, she disagrees with me on.
And she's buddy with Blair White. You know, she's been, you know, kind of sliding in that anti-SJW conservative direction in recent times too. So
possible. She says that she's still kind of the same, has the same values, but I don't know, you could be right in terms of her changing. And then also the audience is very intimidating, knowing that the audience, by and large, there's going to be some people who are both very few people who are fans, some people who are maybe not like that are really crazy about CC, but who are willing to listen to me. But a lot of people, the majority of them, are just going to look at me like, oh, that's the SJW asshole that they have on this page.
It's going to be an anti-SJW circle jerk. Totally. The entire audience is going to be an anti-SJW circle jerk. There's no doubt about it. That's exactly that's what they're drawing in. I mean, they're trying to draw that in, so that's what they're going to get.
Totally. So Chrissy, what is your outlook on all of that? Like, what are you telling? How are you approaching all of that?
Well, I can tell you, sitting right next to me, I've bought several books. I've got Domestic Violence, Intersectionality, and Culturally Competent Practice that I'm reading through now. It's delightful. And several other, like, I'm taking the topic that I'm there seriously. I want to do well. I'm very aware that I am on a panel talking about intersectionality that is completely white. And that's not fucking cool. Like, and the reason it's completely white, above and beyond it's sort of the usual problem that atheists have of connecting with people of color, is that in particular, they have asked Black people, they have asked people of color to be on this panel. Nobody wants to go into this hell pit, and I don't blame them.
I don't blame them either. Hell no.
I don't blame them for a second. Like, there's no benefit to their community. And I think that's very, very sad, and something that we need to reconcile as sort of like non-believers or secularists or people who want to reach out, is that we have made, I had nothing to do with it. I'm not taking this. But some people have made a very toxic environment.
Mrs.
A
Milwaukee.
lot of people.
Exactly. They've made an environment where people don't feel comfortable enough to come, you know, and that's on them. That's their doing. People like me and you have been telling them exactly what they're doing, exactly what's going to happen, and they don't give a shit, you know? And,
yeah. And there's an argument that I am commonly confronted with, which is that, like, oh, the SJWs just they don't want they don't want debate, and they're afraid, and blah blah blah.
I'm not afraid.
It's such bullshit. It's like there are a lot of people who are willing to have these talks, actually. I mean, I get the impression that if they were willing to, because a few of these people, not the majority of people, no, like most people are not paid anything, but I'm fairly certain somebody like Peter Boghossian is. And if they had the budget for like one like left-wing super guest, then they could have it. But you know, that's their priorities as far as I can see it. And I don't know. It's just I really do think that like for the most part, this is you're right. This is going to be kind of an SJW circle jerk. I do know the guys, like I've talked with the guys, and I decided to do it because I felt comfortable with them. And really the thing that kind of like clinched it was I said to them, like, look, I'm going to be like, there's no way that I can do this if you guys expect me to be like, not, you know, to not hold in how I feel about this, I'm going to speak frankly about anything that I don't like, and yada yada yada. And they were very much like, no, we like that. We want you to feel like you can say whatever you want. And
I call bullshit on that. They did nothing but lie to me. They told me continuously that the reason they couldn't invite me is because they already had the guest list completely set and there was no way to change it. They told me that so many times, and then they continue to add guests over and over and over again after they told me that. Instead of just being straight up with me and saying, we don't want you there, fuck you. They just lied to me repeatedly and showed me absolutely no respect.
Right. Yeah, I wish you were there, man. It would be a lot of fun to have you there, and I'm sure that you'd really say some memorable stuff. But yeah,
if it was up to me, you'd be coming. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we can do a little mini dance routine.
Don't dance. They'll kick you out. They've already told me. They fear the dance.
To your honor.
I'd like to take a moment, if it's cool, to because I haven't had an opportunity to do this. You had a if it's the Richard Carrier thing. Is it okay if I just briefly say something?
Go for it. Jump in.
Yeah, hopefully the people who are watching know what we're talking about. This Richard Carrier guy who is speaking. He is suing, I believe, PZ Myers and a few other people for $1.9 million. PZ Myers is someone who I don't know a great deal about. I know that I have either disagreed with him in the past or not liked the way that he went about like doing certain things. So I'm just trying to let people know that he's not like, you know, I don't have any sort of allegiance to the dude, but I watched these videos that he made on the topic, and also that a couple that Thunderfoot made, and I really, it seems to me that the situation is that just Richard Carrier is suing this group of people over like it's a very frivolous lawsuit. It's like I said, $1.9 million, and it's all over shit that he pretty much admitted, saying they didn't really do anything that was or say anything that was genuinely slanderous, or they didn't commit libel. And I just want to say, I guess I'll just finish it up by saying that I really do feel that he does not represent my values, that he does not, I think he's an awful representative of, like he's there to speak with Sargon about social justice issues. And I think that by virtue of the fact that he is like, there's no justice whatsoever to what he's doing. It seems very shady. And I just really do think that he makes us all look more like more of a joke. Like everyone who's there to speak on behalf of, either social justice or left-wing causes, I think looks worse by virtue of having this guy on the panel. And so I just really wanted to let people know with no uncertain terms that I do not endorse his presence there. And that's just really how I feel about it all.
You think they did that on purpose? They picked the worst possible person they can to represent social justice warriors, so they got an easy win.
No, because Richard Carrier is someone that they had a long-standing relationship with, and in fact, they've from the beginning they've supported him. And this is a serious problem with this organization, is that they support people who have these sorts of harassment, misogyny, these sort of bad behavior issues in their past, and they act as if that's not going to send a message, right? But of course it does. We know. Like, look around you and look at the Catholic Church and what's going on. Look at the universities that are having problems, the sports teams, Hollywood. It's everywhere now. Like, and people know when there are groups that tolerate this shit and groups that don't. And actually, this is a group that tolerates this shit.
I actually did a video about this before, talking about this. A lot of these atheist conventions are like this. A lot of the speakers that go to this look at these as meat markets, and they're all like, a lot of them are swingers, and a lot of them go to hook up with, the fans that show up and stuff. It's very, very common. I went through a lot of it too. Like I went to several of these atheist conventions, and everyone I've been to has been exactly the same. It's a lot of people trying to get you in a bed. That's for sure.
And I don't care that people want to do that. Like, that's not what I'm going there for. But if other people want to do that, that's fine.
It's all on how you do it, though. You have to do it with some kind of class, some kind of subtlety in class.
Yeah, you can't make people feel unsafe and uncomfortable. You can't violate people's consent. And when you start to do that, it's wrong. I mean, I know that we're often told that we're very I don't know, like puritanical. It's like, no, dude, if there was a Puritan here and I told them what I think is cool, they'd run screaming out of the room. Like, it's not a question of that. It's a question of wanting people to have consent and choice and be treated with some sort of basic respect.
It reminds me of that Lawrence Krauss. What's that blind girl's name? She made a video about her experience with Lawrence Krauss.
Christina Rad.
Christina Rad. Yeah, I watched her video on it. And if you watch her video and she talks about her experience with Lawrence Krauss, you can understand exactly, what she's going through and how uncomfortable that situation would have made her. And you can tell she's telling the truth. I mean, she comes across incredibly honest and sincere in what she's saying. She's not just out to get him. She's just telling exactly what happened. And, you can tell that anybody who's treated like that will be creeped out. And that seems to be a lot of the behavior of these people that are headlining these events.
And Lawrence Krauss recently, the university finished up their review and found that there was credible evidence of his sort of bad behavior, of grabbing at women, grabbing women's breasts and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you
Disappointing.
know, like there's not a lot. I don't see from the atheist community any real reckoning for that. You know, I mean, the response has been very pathetic.
Well, for the most part,
sad.
for the most part, these anti-SJWs who have taken over the skeptic community, they hate the Me Too movement. You know, they see it as a feminist inquisition, basically. So they're not gonna get a lot of support from that section.
You know, I have a friend. You guys probably know. I won't bring her up just because I don't know if she wants to be mentioned. But she, you know, she has kind of made me realize certain things about Matt Dillahunty. Matt Dillahunty is someone who I do believe I still respect in spite of a bunch of things that I'm not crazy about the guy, but that guy, his response to the Lawrence Krauss thing was pretty, like, if you look at it, is my microphone okay?
Yeah.
Would it be okay if I went off on this topic?
Yeah. Could you? Because I think you're probably better equipped than I am to talk about it.
Before you do, were you in agreement with what Matt Dillahunty said, or you disagree with what Matt Dillahunty said?
I think the problem, and I should say that Matt Dillahunty said something along the lines of, well, I believe people even when they say that they saw a ghost. So of course I believe, you know, so I believe that they think that that's true. And I think that the people who are coming forward with sexual harassment claims believe that they're true.
Right. There are good people on both sides, basically.
Yeah. So like that was, and here's one of the things that I think that is really important about the skeptic community that they have not gotten. And that is, you can't treat everything the same. You can't treat every claim that comes across your table like somebody is telling you that there's a ghost, right? That's a total, if somebody is coming to you and saying, all right, first of all, it's incredibly dismissive and insulting and suggests that, you know, crazy women, they see the, you know, they're just like people who see ghosts. Mm-hmm. No, that's not quite the same thing.
They see sexual harassment everywhere.
They do it. Guess what? But like if somebody comes to you and says, oh, I saw a ghost. Oh my God, are you okay? I mean, should we call somebody? Do we need to make sure this ghost doesn't hurt other people? Like, these aren't things that go through your head. All you have to do if somebody says, I saw a ghost, is nothing. That's your entire ethical, moral, intellectual responsibility there. You can entertain that person. You can ask them questions. You can decide whether or not you find that credible, which I don't know why you would, but you can. But it's a completely different thing if somebody comes to you and says that they've been hurt and, you know, assaulted or made to feel terrible. You know, that's a whole different thing, and it requires a different outlook upon what you're talking about. Like, so you've got to stop. There's so much here that is just built up. Like the atheist community, and a lot of this is because, I'm sorry, it was from the beginning white dudes who didn't understand a lot of sort of the complicated history that black people have with the church, for instance, and how much they have needed it as a place of solace, of healing, and also as a place to organize for their own best interests. Or they didn't understand what it was like if you are poor and you go to the church because you need somebody to feed your kids. Or, you know, these are things that in America, we don't have a strong social net to do. We don't have, if you're, a lot of the people that I have talked to over the years when I was doing more, you know, working with people with drug addiction, they would go to churches because that was a place you could go to get support for your drug addiction. And that isn't widely available. So there's a lot of atheists out there, and I'm sorry that think that what everybody needs is another video on the Kalam, and God, heavens bless you all. I'm sure that's great, but you also have to be thinking about the needs that other people who are coming out of religious groups have. And if these are people who are coming out of religious groups that have been abusive and harming them and treating them like there's something terribly wrong with them because they're gay or they're women and women are supposed to be a certain way, they don't need to come and get a bunch of white dudes being assholes and then telling them they're stupid for not realizing how smart, that these claims are. I have rambled on. I know. I'm sorry, but this is
You're making me feel guilty.
And I have no problem with the fact that there are these apologist arguments that need to be taken on. But what I'm trying to say, and what I'm hoping to say when I go there, is the atheist community, the secular community, needs to take a much wider point of view and get out of this narrow focus and start thinking about how to talk to the needs of people and how to think about what kind of movement do you want. Do you want a movement that if somebody came out of the Catholic Church who had been assaulted by a priest could come and feel safe? Do you want a movement where if somebody has been raised all their life to believe that there's something terribly wrong with them because they're gay or trans, that they have a place to go?
Yeah.
Or not? Or just another place that's exactly like the hell place they just were at?
I made a video called Black Atheist or Uncle Tom's, and you're kind of making me feel guilty about that a little bit. You kind of give me a little second thought on that. I think what you said is, very good about how, they need the community support and somebody to help feed their kids, and kind of makes me rethink the video a little bit. Kind of gives me a second look at it. So what you're saying is important, I think.
I lately have been thinking a lot of, the Creationist Cat channel always, certain people think that the channel was made to own Christians and whatnot. And I guess if you, in a way, like, yes, but creationists, like I've never really had a problem with, kind of just kind-hearted Christians who don't cram their religion down one's throat. Yet at the same time, I've been trying to think about really where I come out on this. It's like, on one hand, I do believe that, but at the same time, I do think that there is like a certain amount of ways that even those who are like that kind of enable the bullshit. And I don't know. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like I've really been trying to come to an understanding of where I'm at with all of that. And it's like I want. There are a lot of Christians who actually like the Creationist Cat channel, and they're not fervent Christians, but I want that. I want people to be able to I want, as a person, to feel accessible to everyone, and yet at the same time, I strongly feel like religion, a lot of other things, but religion is one of the main tentacles of bullshit. There's this monster that's, maybe I'm really kind of going off on a tangent here.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be nice about religion, which I feel has done terrible things to people in this country and continues to do it today. And I'm sorry to, I hate to say that, but I just think it's based in such horrible ideas and attitudes that it can't help but be terrible.
I think it's even worse these days in the atheist skeptic community for Muslims. I think people have moved on a great deal. I mean, there's still some talk of Christianity, but people are way harsher on Islam these days than than Christians. And there's a lot of really great Muslims out there, I mean, just good people, and they're all kind of treated with a broad brush. They're treated like trash, and there's virtually no meaningful dialogue about Islam in general. And like, so many people scoff if you talk about things like just the history, that how we got here, and why the political aspects of everything. And it's really I have a friend who has a podcast. I mean, I think we all know her. She does the what is the name of the podcast? Oh my God.
Polite Conversations.
Yeah, Polite Conversations. And she's really opened my eyes up to the fact that a great deal, or really 99% of the ex-Muslims in the atheist community are really like right wing, and really kind of embrace this sort of this sort of comparison of Islam with Nazism and stuff. Like, I'm not saying they all do, but a great deal of them do. And I mean, certainly, like the most fervent, like the worst parts of Islam maybe deserve that comparison, but comparing the entire religion to that is really obscene to me. And comparing all of Christianity to that, like all of the people who are a part of Christianity and Catholicism, that's ridiculous to me. So I don't know exactly where I'm going with that, but do you guys feel me on that?
Yeah, I agree. I have a lot of fans that are Christians too, and I live in the most religious state, in the country, and everybody here is nice as shit. I mean, they're just the nicest people around me at all the times, and I have a lot of friends and family that are Christians too. So I kind of struggle with not wanting to attack all Christians and make me feel like I hate Christians, because I don't. I love them. They're great people. It's just the ideology that I attack, and it goes the same thing with Muslims. I don't think you should ever be a shithead to somebody just because they're a Muslim. That's ridiculous. Most Muslims are incredibly good, kind people. It's just the ideology. If they start spreading it, of course, attack their bad ideas all day long, but don't attack them. They're good people like everybody else.
A lot of people think that I, as a person, have changed dramatically over the past few years, and I really haven't. Like, my values are practically the same. Some people have that impression because there was a brief period of time where I made like not even that many, but like a few videos that were kind of like talking about SJWs and stuff. The reason why I did that was because it was right at the beginning of that. And I've always thought that there's some value to being introspective, to kind of like looking at your group and kind of admitting to its faults and whatnot, But, I really, the inception of CC was to kind of like get at the stranglehold that evangelicals have on mostly right-wing politics. And like, I don't know, it's just really funny to me that so many people think that I have changed immensely. And I really think that it's more just, no, like fucking things changed around me. And then at a certain point, I got really tired of it. And I was like, okay, fuck this. Like, I'm going to be more consistent. I'm going to talk about these things more. And,
well, that's exactly what happened to me. The community changed.
Yeah.
The community completely went this anti-SJW direction, and I started just like you, started going with it at first. I was even in talks at one time to go on tour with Drunken Peasants, and do live shows and stuff with them. But then I started, researching exactly what Trump was going to do, researching what the conservatives were going to do, and starting to see exactly the direction this was going to lead us. And I was like, no, I can't be a part of this. Even if I lose a huge section of my fan base, even if I lose a huge amount of money, my conscience won't allow me to do that. And so it's not, and so I didn't change. I pretty much stayed exactly what I was always doing. And the whole community changed, and a lot of them abandoned me for it. And they say that I changed, but I didn't. You know, I'm still pretty much the same as I've always been. It's you guys that went along with the trend.
You know, Drunken Peasants and TJ, like there was a time when TJ was talking about like Trayvon Martin and stuff like that, you know, in very favorable ways, and talking about what a tragedy that was. And I don't want to kind of like say who in the Drunken Peasants, but there's a member, or you know, they've broken up, but there's one of those guys I had a conversation with. And amazingly, you know, he was the first person that kind of that I heard, that I really heard a good explanation of like racism as being kind of like the combination of power and maybe I'm mangling this a little bit. Christiosity, can you help me out here? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm sorry, I was just noticing something in the chat, and I had to, somebody was being abusive to people. So
that's not cool. Fuck off, abusers.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
I'm not trying to say the Drunken Peasants was completely anti-SJW, but they did, you know, during the peak of that trend, they did go that direction pretty hard.
Yes.
And the main problem I had was the fan base they were drawing in. They were drawing in such amazing shitheads that I just did not want to be associated with that at all. So I had to distance myself from it.
My point is that one member in particular really bought into I mean, I don't think that he was wrong. You know, like he had very like social justice leanings at a certain point, and then totally changed on a dime when like it just became popular to do so. And I think that a big unfortunately, like, I hate to give him credit because he's such a cocksucker, but I think one person who really influenced the whole landscape of this, you know, like community is atheism is unstoppable, because the reason the reason why I think that he really did influence it is because he was the one who really convinced TJ to adopt a lot of his bullshit beliefs. And TJ, like, for like a while, I mean, like, he was imperfect, but all of a sudden, like, he was getting his ass like ripped up by AIU, and then one day, for some crazy reason, TJ made like a video where he was like, yeah, AIU is right. And then so quickly I saw the community kind of changing their values, and like there were people who would call things that were genuinely racist out as racist, and suddenly they were people who were saying like, oh, everybody calls everyone racist, and I don't know, it just like just seeing how everything has changed over the years has been a trip.
I mean, I've actually had private conversations with one of them. I'm not going to mention which one it is, but we actually talked about what they were going to jump to once the anti-SJW stuff died down. So they understood it as a business model. I mean, they totally did, because we discussed it. So yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing, and you know, and I thought about jumping on board with that, but you know,
it's not a good long-term strategy, because things follow you.
Yep.
And you're
white.
Yeah.
It's good for now. They're still killing it. All of them are still killing it. It's sad to see how strong it's still going, though, to be honest with you. I do agree it's going to die off eventually. And I think, like Mythicist Milwaukee, I think they're going to ruin their reputation by throwing their hat in the ring with this anti-SJW shit. But right now, it's still incredibly popular, and it probably will be for at least a couple more years.
It's really hilarious to me. You guys have at least read or heard about this, like the meltdowns that Milo has been having recently, right?
Yeah, it's hilarious and sad at the same time.
It is hilarious and sad at the same time, but I think that it's really kind of, I don't know.
They'll abandon you in a heartbeat. These hoes ain't loyal. Not a fucking bit.
They'll abandon you in a heartbeat, but in a way, I feel like it's really the beginning of the end of all this shit, because I hope it is.
I
Because
still think we got a ways to go. I've looked at the numbers, and they're still killing it. Sargon, Shu, they're all fucking killing it still. So we got a couple years of fighting to go before we can destroy this trend. It'll die eventually, just like the Keck stuff. You know, Keck stuff's dead as shit now, but for a while it was the big trendy ass thing, Kekistan, and
well, they're a little bit eating each other now. Like, Mundane Matt is down, Metacore, and Kraut are fighting. Like, I don't know all the ins and outs of all of these dramas, so I don't want to get into it. But yeah, it's not. Anti-Worski has
Anti-Worski pretty much imploded, self-imploded.
yeah, what's up with Worski? Like, I've seen some pictures of him, and he looks like he's on crack these days.
Yeah, he's having a mental breakdown. It looks like to me.
I think he's trying to like act, like make videos where the joke is that he's on crack, but he might literally be on crack.
He clearly needs a white nationalist to help him out, because once the white nationalist ditched him, it went downhill for him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know, but part of that was also that he had sort of hit the end of that gravy train, because there's only so many times you can talk to white nationalists before you just become a white nationalist channel.
Yeah.
Like, that was it.
Yeah.
So
once you have the two leading white supremacy websites in the world call you the new it boy, then what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you're fucked, and there isn't anywhere to go.
Yep.
And I don't know. It is yes, if you go in for this very niche market that doesn't have a lot out there serving their niche interests of being fucking Nazis, you will get a boost at first. And there are certainly plenty of man babies out there who will listen to you about how women are picking on you. And you're very picked on. And you poor thing.
I think that the really big personalities in these, I think that they will find a way to survive, like your Sargons and your Paul Joseph Watsons and whatnot. But then when it comes to smaller channels, I think that they definitely will have a hard time kind of transitioning into things that like people won't forget. Although I don't know, it's funny because it's like Blair White. Have you guys seen that? You probably haven't seen it because you haven't been on social media, Dusty. But there's a really funny thing that happened. Do you know what I'm talking about, Christiosity? With the she basically threatened.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Let me read this because I think that this is so hysterical and kind of sad. I don't necessarily take like joy in this, but I look at this as sort of like this is what happens when you engage in this sort of activity. So here we go. Let me find it.
I've been banned from her from a while, so even if I wasn't banned from Twitter, I probably wouldn't have been able to see it anyway. She banned me long ago, along with Shu and everybody else.
So, okay, I posted 3 tweets, and under the heading, I don't think I've ever seen an accusation of slander backfire this hard. So an article was written about, who was it? About Natalie, about ContraPoints in this online magazine called The Verge. And,
I read it.
And there was a paragraph that said, this is the only mention of her. It said, but such pressure makes missteps costly. Last November, she was harshly criticized by many of her viewers for agreeing to a Vancouver debate at the University of British Columbia's Free Speech Club with ethno-nationalist YouTuber Blair White. Goes on for a little bit longer, but that's all they say about her. So she wrote in response, hey, Quené Moon, who's the writer, and she said, "You recently wrote an article in which you described me as ethno-nationalist. This is the most slanderous thing ever written about me, and if it's not removed, I will be pursuing legal action." So she wrote that, and then they changed it, which actually I did endorse them changing that, because she's not technically an ethno-nationalist, even though that she may be a lot of things. And so they changed it to a Vancouver debate at the University of British Columbia's Free Speech Club with Blair White, a self-described conservative YouTuber who has shared coy tweets with Richard Spencer, enthusiastically supported far-right activist Lauren Southern, whose most recent exploits included participating in expeditions to asylum seekers in the Mediterranean Sea and ginning up fears about immigrants in Melbourne, as well as Milo Yiannopoulos, whose connections to the extreme right and neo-Nazis are well documented. She also has donned blackface, which many understood to mock Black Lives Matter, a frequent target, though she has since deleted many of her YouTube videos attacking them. And once posted to Facebook that if he ain't Aryan, we ain't marrying. So that's like I don't look at like it's harsh, and you know, I think that she's someone who she engages with all these awful people, but I don't think that she's genuinely racist. But yet at the same time, it's like what you were saying about this stuff following you around. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when you like what is the term when you wrestle with pigs, you're gonna get
lay down with dogs, you get fleas.
What?
Lay down with dogs, you get fleas.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that. And then somebody else posted something that was really funny. Before she had a chance, trying to find it, but here it is. Before she had a chance to actually read it, she tweeted out, the article by The Verge has amended the description of me as an ethno-nationalist to avoid legal trouble. Sorry to all of you know-it-all bitches who told me threatening to sue was a stupid idea. and then she, like, pretty much like 5 minutes later, she deleted that.
Yeah, and then she actually read the article. That's what they always do. They never read the article. They always just are reactionaries. Mm-hmm. They comment on the title of the article, or what somebody tells them about it. They don't actually fucking read it. So frustrating.
And there are a lot of people, like I have seen some very strange arguments in favor of like Blair White, because before this, it wasn't like we were talking a lot about Blair White. She sort of toned things down or whatever. Or she's talked about maybe toning it down someday. I'm not exactly sure what. But now all of a sudden, you have these stupid arguments about, well, it was blackface, but it was a charcoal mask that she put on.
It was just a charcoal mask to make fun of Black Lives Matter.
She called herself Blair Black. She put the BLM hashtag. She's doing like the wide-eyed like pout that like people who like back in the minstrel show days would do. It's so obvious. Like, I don't think that she's genuinely racist. Like, I doubt that she hates that she genuinely dislikes Black people, but there's no doubt that she wasn't trying to like trigger racially sensitive people. It was like non-racist people can make racist jokes, and that's what it was. And I just wish that she'd fucking own it, And
I doubt she's even a conservative, to be honest with you.
What?
I don't even think she's a conservative. I think she's just the con artist that does anything for money. That's the feel I get from her.
Yeah.
She's an incredibly dishonest person. She continuously posts dishonest things on Twitter, like articles that are taken out of context to own the libs. And a lot of people think, and I'm one of them, that she faked the drink in her face incident.
Yeah. Very possible.
I believe she faked that. And then the whole throwing the hat thing, I believe a lot of that was faked. So I find her to be an incredibly dishonest person, to do anything she can to get clicks and make money. That's the kind of person I think she is, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think she is dishonest, but I don't think we should gloss over the fact that if you're willing to like do something that's extraordinarily racist and insensitive and put that out there in public where people you know, I mean, that's not a cool thing. People who are black people who don't know who the fuck you are have to look at that shit now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
to not think about that and to not think about what you're doing to hurt like an entire race of people and insult them and bring up horrible things. To
And-
me, that does not show somebody who respects or cares about black people or
And
even
it-
thinks about them.
And in fairness, to be completely honest, I said a couple of things before that I now consider to be racist. I didn't mean to be racist at the time, but now that I'm looking back, I think they were racist. And I think I was going down a bad road a couple of years ago, which is a lot of the reason I changed some of my content and try to change my audience because I was embarrassed of what my audience was becoming. So yeah, but at least I recognized, you know, that some of the things I said were incredibly insensitive. They were meant to be jokes, but I was just trying to be edgy. I was just trying to be, you know, I was just trying to be an edgy asshole, and it bit me in the ass because it was stupid. But you know, I learned from it at least.
I have to say, you know, there are times where I feel like I wish that because Dusty and I we're older than, and maybe I don't know how old you are, Christiosity. I imagine you're in your early 30s. I'm not. Exactly.
I am 42.
Oh, okay, all right. So you're within our age range, and it's funny because, you know, there are days where I think like, fuck, if the internet was just around when I was 18, like I'd have
Oh yeah,
able to do
It's
so
awful.
much. But then at the same time, I think no, if the internet was around when I was 18, I'd have made a fucking ass of myself.
Mhm.
And you know,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be doing blackface, but there would be some things following me around for sure.
I'd be haunted. I was a Christian until I was 33, so I'd be fucking. I was a conservative Christian until I was 33, so I'd be haunted as fuck about the stupid shit I'd be posting. I'm
Right.
glad I wasn't around then.
It's
Yeah.
both a blessing and a curse.
and I do not hold it against people. I think there were some things that people were arguing about. Like, if you own your shit and fix it, I don't care. I'm like, thanks for coming aboard.
Yeah, we all fuck up. We all make mistakes. None of us are perfect, you know. All you can do is, you know, own it. Say, I fucked up. I did it. I completely fucking own it, and I apologize. And that's the best you can do with it.
Yeah, it's the people who refuse to own it or give us this stupid, you know, excuses
Mhm.
that are just like, don't fucking insult my intelligence, dude.
Their egos won't let them admit they're wrong.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think that dovetails a bit into what you were saying earlier about, you know, kind of like freedom of speech and the fact that a lot of these people expect to say things without any reaction. You know, it's like when they don blackface, and there were so many people in you know, for the tweet that I put out who were saying like, oh, she should be able to do that. Like what's the big deal? Come on. And I was like, yeah, she has the right to do that, but people have the right to react. And, you know, especially people who have no clue who she is and are just confronted with that on YouTube. I mean, on Twitter, it's like, yeah, like if they get fucking angry, that's just a consequence of her free speech, you know?
Yeah, she has the right to say whatever she wants to, and we have the right to call her on our bullshit. You know, the system works.
Well, sometimes it does.
That's true. I'm not on Twitter anymore, so I guess it doesn't always.
Can I ask you guys what you think of this? Like we mentioned earlier how Jacqueline has perhaps taken a little bit of a right turn, and then there's Lacey Green, who I don't think has gone completely to the right yet. She's done a lot of things that I could never see her doing, like going on Steven Crowder's show and stuff like that. You know, what do you guys think about that? Because I was thinking about it, and I feel like, you know, these people have experiences where they may be genuinely treated poorly by their audience, but I think that it's very, they're looking at things through a very, like, you know, myopic like lens, because it's like basically I think that either side is going to like if either side feels like you are starting to kind of go against them, you're going to get people, whether it's lefties or people on the right, who are going to treat you horribly. And they kind of act as there are certain people who act who are on the left, who start getting shit, who feel as though it really is indicative of the left to act that way, and I just don't think that that's the case.
Yeah, they feel like they're being pushed to the right. But if a few people say stupid shit to you, and that causes you to vote against your own best interest, you're a fucking moron. Okay, I have lefties say bad shit to me all the goddamn time. They have for 10 years. It didn't push me fucking. Well, I guess it did a little bit for a little while, but it hasn't pushed me much to the right, because I realized that voting against your own best interest is stupid. As far as Lacey Green concerned, I think it's mainly because she's very influenced by the guy she's dating, which a lot of girls, they get like that. They start dating a guy and they start getting heavily influenced, which I thought was funny when MythCon labeled him as a liberal comedian. Chris Reagan, liberal comedian. Obviously, and it was so transparent. The reason they did that is because they were taking so much shit for having an anti-SJW conservative circle jerk. So they're doing everything they could to push back against that narrative. So no, look, we have a liberal comedian here. Yeah, we see right through that MythCon. Come on, don't bullshit a bullshitter.
That quartering guy is
the worst.
Yeah, I've realized he's one of the people on the the panels that just is really like, wow. His videos on Shira, I made that video on Shira, and he has this whole section of the second video that he did this video that was a reaction to the reaction of his first video, and he keeps on saying, and I don't know, I encourage people to watch it because I don't want to kind of get the guy wrong, but he keeps on saying this whole thing about like how they're projecting, and then he goes on and says like, I don't know what it is, but all of these people, like basically he's made the argument that these people have a thing for that they're projecting, that they have a thing for having sex with cartoons. So it kind of makes it sound like they're perverts, right? And he says, and I don't know what it is about these people, but all the people who said this to me had rainbow flags in their avatars. And he says that literally at least 5 or 6 times in the video. And it just 5 or 6 times he's like, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not going to comment on it, but it's just really weird. And it just really ends up sounding like, I don't want to say that they're weird sex perverts, but they're weird sex perverts.
I don't want to say, it's talking about gay people basically, right? I don't want to say gays are perverts, but
lock up your kids. No, it's, dude, nobody's projecting. It was a weird thing to have a problem about.
Yeah, who among us has not masturbated to tentacle porn? Come on.
It's hilarious. Sargon made this video where he calls me a liar, and the main reason is because he says that he was, like, the name of the video is SJW's freak out over She-Ra reboot, and he insists that he wasn't freaking out. But he made all these absurd comments and all these like absurd points. He literally said things like this generation, and he's talking about specifically this anti-gender movement, as he puts it, is going to just die out, and there are going to be relics. And I don't care, like if you say something like, he says it in a very even tone, but it's like if you say something like, look, I don't really care about this, but the earth is flat and the deep state Illuminati, Bilderbergs are all behind it, and they just don't want you to know that that's the case. But it's not a big deal. I don't really care. I'm sorry, like you're being hysterical, even though that you're not like, showing this telltale signs of it. You're not being like, but what you're saying sounds pretty crazy.
And the fact that he thinks it's going to die out means he doesn't even understand what the definition of the word gender is. You know, they keep sticking to the belief that the word gender and the word sex have the same definition. It's like, just Google it. It's not the fucking same definition, you know? Come on. Like, even anybody could do this.
There was another classic Sargon thing. I'm probably going to, CC's probably going to respond to the video, but there was a classic Sargon moment where he, in order to make his point, he shows this random paper that some feminist wrote. And I didn't read the whole paper, but I looked at the portions that he talks about. And he was like, see, look at this. This woman talks about deconstructing gender. And I took a good look at it, and I realized, like he looks at the word deconstruct, and he thinks it means like get rid of or destroy. But it just means analyze. That's what it means. This woman is calling for the analyzation of gender, which like there's nothing fucking wrong with that.
They're coming for your masculinity. They just hate men. That's what it's all about.
So yeah, it's just another case of Sargon not really understanding like what he's reading.
Well, that's what they all do. They all have no reading comprehension whatsoever. It's like toxic masculinity. They say, ooh, toxic masculinity. They're saying all masculinity is toxic. They hate men. No, you stupid idiot. Not what the fuck they're saying at all. They're talking about certain aspects of masculinity that are harmful to men, and they're talking about it to help men. They're not doing it to hurt men. They're doing it to fucking help them, because these things are not good for men. Okay? It's frustrating to try to explain this to them.
Yeah, I'm going to have like a deep dive into toxic masculinity coming up, but it was originally created by men's activists for men, because they could see that this was a serious problem among men, like that there was, you know, this people were getting this sort of this pressure to always be in control and to be aggressive, and you have to be like this, and you have
emotionless
and all this shit, and it's like
to drop a hat, and I'm a man, and it's fucking annoying. That's why I don't have a lot of guy friends, because I can't be around that shit. Okay, I don't want to sit around and measure my dick with you all day long. I just want to chill, and if you want to chill, then you got to fuck off.
That's really interesting that men came up with the toxic femininity thing. I did not know that. That's fascinating. It reminds me a little bit of actually, like, you know, I never realized this until somewhat recently. I listened after many years, because I had never really listened to the whole what's her name, the Binks, the Big Red
Shanty Binks.
Yeah, is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the name she went by.
Yeah, and there was that one video where she's just like, nah, you know, and she's very shrill. I mean, I'm sorry, she just is. But the thing is that I listened to what she said, and the things that she lists off, what she's really doing is that she's really agreeing with like a lot of men's right activist points. She's like talking about how feminism actually, in her opinion, cares about all of these genuine problems within the male community. Mm-hmm. The only thing is that she's saying it in this like really inaccessible way. She's just screaming her head off as she's saying it and getting pissed off. I don't know what it was like for her. Maybe it was just a really hostile environment, and like I don't know. But it's really interesting that she, like, it makes more sense than I thought. Like before I revisited it, I thought like it was just going to be some craziness, and it all makes sense. It's just said in a way that is just very uninviting.
Yeah. Well, they were. Oh, feedback. So they were having like issues. Like I said, it was a very, very fraught time. Like, and it's like, come on, people, you must have been in an argument that got out of hand before. Like, you know, there was a time when we weren't videotaping everything on our phones and uploading them to the internet. Like, this is not, she didn't kill a puppy. You know what I'm saying? She was a woman who got a little yelly. And that is an entire subgenre of anti-SJWs, is just there was a woman who got upset and yelled.
Unforgivable.
Like that's
SJWs.
I know. It's just ridiculous. Like, it doesn't matter what they were saying or not saying. It doesn't matter. Like, there was that woman, and I can't remember her name, but she was at a college, and she was one of the people that was she like touched somebody's camera and said, "You can't come here," and was pushing people away. And I think it was, I can't remember.
She was a professor, right? Didn't she
Yeah,
get
it was
fired?
a perfect. She apologized. She was fired. And she genuinely apologized for it. Like, she had a whole like thing that she wrote out, saying, I can't believe I did that. She made a fucking mistake and she apologized, and people made her life hell for 2 years over it.
There's kind of a double standard where women can get away with the same things men do, like the Elon Musk situation. They've been talking about a lot lately. Like, if a woman behaved the same way he did as a CEO of a company, she would be immediately ousted, but he can get away with it and being all emotional and emo because he's a dude.
Yeah, it's and women know it. Women know that we have to be more calm, but it's just a pain in the ass because nobody can be calm all the time. People yell.
You're set to a higher standard.
Yeah, Thomas Smith, again, bring back to MythCon, when he talked about the whole Sargon conversation that he had, I thought he had a really excellent point, which was, a lot of people, a lot of people thought that he lost just because of the fact that he showed emotion over the course of that discussion. And showing emotion like that has nothing to do with whether you're right or wrong, or whether or not you're, well, to some degree, whether or not you're being professional. It really depends. He certainly, in my opinion, did not cross the line. There's footage out there, more than one. I think there's like several events where fucking Christopher Hitchens gave people the finger, told people to fuck off in the audience, and it's just, I don't know, like these people expect in these situations people to be cool as a cucumber, and I don't know, sometimes emotions dictate. Like, if you really feel passionate about something, it makes sense. You're going to get a little emotional about it.
Yeah, these are the facts over feels, people, but you can say facts with feelings, and it doesn't make your facts any less true just because you said it with emotion and feelings.
And it doesn't make you right if you say something completely wrong in an unemotional way, just like
a robot voice.
Yeah. Sad.
But that guy couldn't have won that anyway because the whole audience was, stacked with Sargon fans. So he was doomed from Jump Street.
Yeah, I think he did as well as as it was possible to do in that situation. Like, it just, and I understand too, some people feel like he should have had a conversation or he should have done that. And sometimes the best thing you can do is say, this whole fucking thing is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, sitting down and having a chat and pretending things are cool when they're not cool.
Yeah, I don't want to be nice to you. I think you're an asshole. I don't be fake, I think you're a fucking shithead. Why can't I just tell you I think you're a fucking shithead? I have to sit down like we're best friends and have a polite conversation. Fuck that.
So, I mean, that was the way I looked at it. And, of course, I thought that was a complete shit show. And,
Well, if you really look at the conversation, like I watched it more than once, and I really watched it one time just trying to basically, like, I wrote a check mark every time that I really felt like he was out of line in any way, shape, or form, even in a mild way. And the same thing with Sargon. And Sargon was, like maybe you could say that that Smith kind of was preemptively the one who was kind of aggressive, but like Sargon did a lot of things that Thomas never did. Like Sargon called him a racist 3 or 4 times, and Thomas never did that. Isn't that supposed to be like the you know, the like cliche of SJWs that they call everyone racist?
It's fine when they do it.
Yeah, they call me racist, sexist.
They call me racist all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Today I got a lot of anti-Semitic because, I don't know, there was a whole thing going on where, you know, if you're critical of Israel in any way, apparently you are an anti-Semite. I did not know that.
That's retarded. Totally fucking retarded. I mean, Israel, it's like you don't like the government. The government's doing bad things, so you're speaking out against the government, not the people. Like, I wouldn't know a Jewish person, you know, from a white person. I can't tell them apart. So I don't give a shit about that. But I care if their government is doing something bad that I think is not only hurting other people, but not even good for them, you know, and hurting us. A lot of things the Jewish government does is not good for America.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It's just a right-wing fundamentalist government that is in power right now. That isn't all Jews, all Jewish people. It doesn't necessarily even represent what most Jewish people would want.
Exactly.
So it's, you know, I have absolutely no issues whatsoever with.
I don't know if I have a lot of friends who are Jewish, and I don't think I have a single friend who's Jewish who supports the Israeli state. You know, like like, are those people anti-Semites?
Apparently, because it's the same with me. I don't. Like, I wouldn't hang out with somebody who thought that what was going on right now in Israel was great. Like, so.
Well, the people that seem to support them the most are Southern evangelicals, because for years they've been brainwashed, and I was brainwashed to believe this too growing up, that the Jews were God's chosen people, and that we had to do everything we possibly could to help the Jews. And when they say the Jews, they mean the Jewish government. That's what they mean. You know, I've done a video talking about this before, how, you know, they have universal health care over there, and we're sending them billions of dollars in aid every year. So there's an argument that can be made that we're basically paying for universal health care. So our government and the people here believe they deserve universal health care more than we deserve it. That's what patriots they are.
So, yeah. I don't know. It sucks. So.
Have you and oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. You're sharing the bill with him, Michael Rowlands. Have you guys kind of discussed like some sort of, like, I don't expect you to divulge it here, but have you guys talked about, like, conversationally points that you want to hit, or
the strategy?
We've talked a little bit about that, and we have to talk more about that. You know, the thing about Mike and I is that we have very different personalities.
Yeah.
And so where I feel like our ideas to sort of come at it, each of us sort of coming with our own personal strengths, if that makes sense. As you know, I'll do the more
trickster. You know, he's got like a bit of a, you know, just a comedic vibe to him. And I think that if you guys kind of like really confer, that you guys can kind of complement each other in a really nice way, because you guys both have different strengths and weaknesses. No, I'm not saying that you have weaknesses.
Your own styles that complement each other.
I have weaknesses, but you know, it's so that's not a problem. But yeah, he's like, I think of him as like a modern day Abby Hoffman kind of guy, like someone who comes out of left field or is a bit of a wild card. And I don't think Mike knows what he's going to do half the time, and I think that's good.
That sounds familiar.
Like
wild card.
Well, I like him, you know. I think he does great things, and I think he's very creative and a great person. I love him to pieces. So this is in no way And it was funny because, you know, to me, now some people think that Mike Rowlands is a very hard person. And to me, he was always like this very, very sweet, loving, generous person. I remember when he had that conversation with Bering that time. And I was like, who the hell is this? Because he was not letting up. Like, he was just going after him and was going to be like, no, Bering, we're going to find out whether or not what you think about consent and what you think about rape and apologetics. And I'm not letting up on you. And in fact, Bering kicked him out of the because. So brave. Yeah, well, he was very brave. So that was kind of like, but that was the first time I saw that he can really, if he wants to, if something pisses him off, he can be that person. Like before that, he was just, you know, just complete sunshine to me all the time. And that's usually what he is. He's the sweetest, sunniest person in the world until you piss him off with like rape apologetics, basically.
That's the way to be. I like that.
I mean, I've seen a side of him that just is not willing to take bullshit, but I've never seen him just kind of, I mean, that sounds like he was just going full throttle, just really not in a great way, not letting him off the hook. I haven't seen that side of him. Be nice to see that side at MythCon. Maybe that'll come out in an organic way. We'll see.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to talk more about it, I'm sure, because it's just us two little people up there with the all the people with the doctorates. And
Bogosian wrote a ridiculous article for Quillette. I mean, I don't know if there are non-ridiculous articles on that website, but yeah. But basically, it said that like Trump was worth it because it's basically going to inoculate America from SJWs, and it's just like, what? God,
that is so. He's one that constantly talks about how feminism and intersectionality are religions. It's like, guys, dude, shut up, man. That's just stupid.
Everything's a religion to these people.
Except their, obsessive
Except their anti-SJW circle jerk.
That can't be, but everything else, because reasons. It's like, look, every ideology is an ideology, and religions are one type of ideology, but there's no God of feminism. There's no holy book of feminism. Let's not be stupid. Let's not confuse. We have the separation of church and state, so let's not confuse what we mean by church.
Did you guys watch? Because I haven't watched it. I thought it might be a little facepalm inducing, but did you watch Shu and Armored Skeptics presentation from last year?
I did a response to it.
I saw part of it.
Because that was all about ideologies, right? And I got the impression that they were just patting themselves on the back the entire time for supposedly not like buying into any ideologies when of course they have.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Those guys are so cliquey too. That whole group is so cliquey. It's because there's Mama June. It just goes after anybody who dares speak out against the anti-SJWs. It's just, they form their own little club over there.
I don't know if they watched my video, but I took it as an opportunity to actually listen to their argument and break it down. And I thought their argument was terrible. I thought it was absurd. It made very little sense. It acted as if anybody who has sort of a moral compass basically has a moral God. I don't even want to get into it. It was sort of,
Sloppy.
You have a moral. It was sloppy. It wasn't well thought out. It wasn't coherent. It wasn't critically defined terms. It was just all over the place. But guess what? I'm smart and I'm a skeptic. I'm not like these other people with moral gods.
And that's a lot of the reason I have a problem with inviting people like Shu and Blair to these big skeptic conventions. It's like inviting the Kardashians to a big science convention and then having somebody not say anything about it. Like obviously we're going to say something about it. These are the last people you should be inviting to a skeptic convention, you know, and Sargon. What the fuck is Sargon doing? We got a big skeptic convention. This guy's not a skeptic in any goddamn way possible. You know, it's insulting, and they're tarnishing the brand of skepticism and doing irreparable harm to it, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, skeptic is an insult now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I've kind of helped turn into an insult. We kind of call them skeptics to make fun of them because, you know, because they're not in any way. It's kind of a mocking term now.
It's too bad because, like, have you seen? Do you guys know who Captain Disillusion is?
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
And he did this live show in Australia. Did you see it?
No.
I highly recommend it. And at the end, I mean, he's kind of talking about his whole journey, becoming like an internet phenomenon, and also being a skeptic / atheist. But then at a certain point, he says, like, I really did not want to be associated with these people. And he describes it as like the asshole vortex. And there's this part where he, like, you know, kind of reenacts like the psychological feeling of kind of being sucked into it. And he has this graphic where, like, Sargon's face is like getting, you know, just like circling the drain into this vortex, and then there's also Armored Skeptic, and I think TJ is there as well. And he's like, no, I don't want to become an asshole.
I feel that so much.
I know. And the thing is that, like, that happened with atheism, and now it's happened with skepticism too. And I think that skepticism was more important. It had more of like a utility, a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, it's this thing that is supposed to kind of like really just, it's the pursuit of truth at its heart. And now it's fucked. And we're living in this like fake news, like what is it, alternative facts world, and we need it more than ever, and it's broken, it's fucked, and a lot of it has to do with these fuckers.
It's the YouTube community, it destroyed it. You know, they went after the money, they followed the trends, and they made all of us who called it out an enemy and demonized us, and they fucked it. You know, I don't know what we're gonna do about it. I don't know how to change it. That's what the frustrating part. I don't know if there's anything we can do to change it. Is there any other word besides skeptic we could use that means skepticism?
I mean, there are some promising developments. I mean, the fact that there are popular YouTubers like Natalie and Sean, and now 3 Arrows and H Bomber guy, you didn't have those a couple years ago, or you had them, but they really were on the fringes. And so there is some sort of
pushback a little bit.
Turnaround.
Yeah, I guess there's some optimism to be had, but still, I don't know. I guess I took so much shit for it over the last couple of years that I've been kind of pessimistic, because, you know, every day of my life for the last several years, from wake to sleep, I've taken shit for this. So after a while, it just kind of seems pointless. Like, you know, it's never going to change. It's never going to get any better.
Well, they concentrated on you because you were more of a threat, you know? And that's just the way it is. You're a threat because you were a name within the skeptic community. You had a certain respect. You weren't supposed to turn around and point out their bullshit. It's one thing if I, as a feminist, come in and point out their bullshit because they just tune me out. They just don't want to hear it.
I guess I'm fucking naive though, because I actually thought I could change their mind. That's the crazy part. Yeah. I thought I could change it, but I didn't at all.
I know what you mean, man. Like, there was a certain period of time where people were really, really, really on my side. And then there was this section of time where, don't get me wrong, there have been some really amazing CC fans that have stuck with CC over the years, and I love them. But then there were these people who I you know, just through comments and stuff like that, I grew to really like them. And then all of a sudden one day they'd be like, "You're fucking SJW now, and you used to be." Oh, I'm sure you get this all the time.
Hell yeah.
I get. You used to be funny,
Yeah.
and I think that's just code word for you've finally made me really butthurt. You've made fun of someone that I really like, and I don't appreciate that.
They love to tell me how I'm not relevant anymore. And I'm like, thank God. It's a nightmare to think that I'll be relevant to you people. That's the last thing I'd want to be, is to be relevant to you. I have nightmares about like dying and then be associated with you guys for the rest of eternity. You know, no. You know, I'd much rather be, you know, less popular and make videos for a small audience, a small loyal audience, than be relevant to you people. I never want that. I know how to be relevant to you guys. If I wanted to be relevant to you, I could very easily. All you have to do is act like the biggest shithead you can possibly be to own the libs. That's all you have to do. And you can make tons of money, you can get tons of popularity, but fuck that, you know? I just can't. I can't.
Which, yeah, integrity sucks. It's not a moneymaker.
That's true. But, you know, I feel so much better because I did start to go down that road for a while, like when I was in Denver. And I was kind of hanging out with that crowd and going down that road. And I felt like I wasn't a very good person. I wasn't doing what I should be doing in my life. Then I moved back to Mississippi and started my animal sanctuary. And I just feel so much better now. Like I'm making a positive difference in the world. So, you know, I'm less popular and make less of money now, but I'm much happier and feel better about myself. So it's way worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and maybe over time they'll find that, or who knows? You know, I mean, there are some people that say that the left is making a comeback, which means they'll probably change too. But I don't, you have to understand that when you attack people's privilege, when you attack them in their, what makes them money, they're not going to be okay with that.
No, that's for damn sure. Punch them in their wallet. Don't really appreciate that at all.
So
I guess I said I don't blame them, but I do.
Hard in the wallet, like, you know, when Kraut made his video, and it was weird because I was sort of friends with a guy when he made his video about David Sherratt and I, and it was about a whole bunch of other people. I believe Chrisiosity was mentioned in it. You were in the thumbnail along with me, and I want to say Sean, and one other person, I forget who. Maybe it was Christy. I lost 5,000 to 7,000 subscribers in a month. It was also followed by a video by Sargon, and so it was kind of like a 1-2 punch. He knocked off like another 1,000 to like 1,500 people. But it was funny because like at that point, like I've gotten to be better friends with you. Like at that point, people like yourself, Kevin, like there were a handful of people that I thought were okay. That like I just kind of every now and then favorited something that they had to say, or vice versa on Twitter. I really didn't have conversations with them, certainly not outside of Twitter. You know, and the most that would be exchanged was just like, you know, like a little bit of witty banter. And he made this video that was like, Vadim is one of them. He's an SJW, and he wants to take down Sargon, and you know, all these things that like it was just so hyperbolic and so like so much of it.
I think that he was having serious mental issues at that point because
yes, he was, and it was just like, yeah, you know, since then I have actually gotten to know a lot of the people that like he accused me of being like at the time that the video was made, I was like, I barely know these people. And, you know, and now, like, I know these people a little bit better, and there isn't a single person among them that I don't think is really nice. Like there's some people that maybe like I have, so, like you know, everybody has differences. Like if you really like kind of look at all these different things, so maybe there's a couple things that maybe we disagree on, but overall these people are fine, you know, and like the idea that they're just like these horrible SJWs that just will dox you and stab you in the back.
Want to destroy Western civilization.
Yeah.
It's all garbage. I mean, maybe there are some people, like every now and then people do stupid things, but yeah, we all agree that this is just like they're looking at things like a cartoon.
He made a video about me, calling me a scam artist about a book I wrote that had been available in public domain for 5 years, and he did not read a single paragraph, a single sentence of it. He did not even bother to go look and see if it was available in the public domain where he could read it. Called me a scam artist about it to all his fans. And so I'm still getting called a scam artist about this book to this day, to these people who have never even bothered to read it. He even admitted he didn't read a single sentence, a single word, yet I'm a scam artist.
He made up, at this point, as long as we're talking about it, he made up screenshots of me saying horrible, horrible things, as if I had said them on Twitter, and he posted them out. But I did get his, a friend of his to take them down. And yeah, he was not in a good place emotionally, because his friend asked me to Skype in with him. I was like, well, all right, if you really think that will help. And he was bawling. He was so upset. He was just not making a lot of sense. So I think at that point, that was like just this really bad point for him. And I think that he did get better. He went away and he got healthy again. So that's great.
Crowd is there's a lot, like there's a lot of good and bad there. You know, there's definitely some good. And I know that there are probably people listening that are, you know, are like, no fucking way. But yeah, there is. Like, I mean, he does have a real like drive to stick it to the alt-right, for instance. And I know, like, you know, I feel like after what he did to me that I can kind of reveal this. I don't think that this is actually something that makes him look bad. I think it makes him look better. But you know, like he is, I think, rightfully derided for a whole bunch of remarks that he made about Muslims that were fucking awful. And I found out about them. I didn't know about them. Someone that I was dating at the time, like, after I'd collaborated with him on several things, like said like, hey, have you seen this shit? This is fucking bullshit. Like there were a few that were really incendiary, really awful stuff. And I like, it was really weird to me, because I had seen a side of him that was very compassionate and just did not seem like the kind of person that would say such things. And when I spoke with him about it, it's like he could sense that I was going to bring this thing up. And he interrupted me, and he was like, Vadim, I know what you were going to talk about. And he said, like, he like confided in me that he was really ashamed of what he had, of all these things that he had said, and he wished that he could do something about it, and he wanted to make a video that where he came clean about it and apologized. And I said to him, I said, like, you know, I'll help you make that video, because I think that would be a really great thing for you to do. It's a very healthy thing for you to do. And like, I did say to him, like he actually he said to me before I said anything, he was like, look, I know that being friends with you, it's like will make you look bad. So let's just be friends. Like basically like we talk every now and then on Skype, but like we didn't have much public interaction, and I wanted it that way because I didn't want people to think that I stood for these horrible things that he said. And then all of a sudden he like went a little loco for a little bit, and he was like, just like, no, the SJWs will never forgive me for these things, so fuck them. And that's around the time that he made that video about me. And I don't know, like he's a complicated person. You know, like he's the kind of person that I don't think is all bad, but like in your case, Dusty, like he did you wrong. Like I don't expect you to have any love for the guy.
I ain't got no beef with him. I don't give a shit. Like I don't have any beef with anybody. Like I'm not like that. I don't hold grudges or hate people. Like who gives a shit? It's all internet bullshit to me. I'll be dead in 50 years. Who gives a fuck?
Sorry, I hope I didn't go on too long with that story. I haven't really shared it and publicly. Well, I did a little bit in a CC video, but I didn't really get into it. And
yeah, I got the feeling he was trying to come back and be a slightly better person recently. So.
Yeah, they took down his channel. I think it was I guess because he came the same day that Medicor got flagged off of Twitter, so they decided that he must have something to do with it. And he had a brilliant plan of, you know, coming out on his video on the same day that that happened so that he would be like in the crosshairs. I don't even know what the thinking was. Like, it's just stupid.
That Medicor guy is one dude that I just never want to tangle with because he just like, it just seems like he has these fans that like, you know, if you anger him that are just really going to mess with your life.
Bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always just ignore them. They always try to pull me into this Clan of Dusty stuff or whatever. I don't even know. Like they.
Well, you know, that's the Clan of Dusty stuff. What that is there was you know the Kumite that Tonka Saw guy does.
I heard of it.
Tonka Saw guy does.
Mm-hmm.
What Clan of Dusty was it was a sketch where Creationist Cat, although they called him Cremationist Cat, and Clan of and you Clan of somebody did an impression of you, and it actually wasn't completely unfunny. I mean, it was obnoxious, but like there was something a little bit funny about it, I have to admit. And basically, like, it was just like somebody doing a bad Creationist Cat impression saying like, hey, Dusty, let's kill the Jews. And Clan of Dusty was like, all right, logic, let's kill those Jews. And that's basically what it was.
That sounds kind of funny.
It was kind of funny. But it wasn't like they were looking at it like it was comedic genius, like it was like Who's on Third Base level shit. Oh. And it wasn't quite as classic as like, you know, it wasn't like Mel Brooks in his prime kind of material.
I just figured they were shit talking me, so I just always ignore it when they do that because, you know, I don't give a fuck. So
yeah,
I didn't really pay any attention, so I had no idea.
Mm.
Yeah, it's too bad because I'm sure that I mean I'm fairly certain that what's his face that Kraut would never false flag a channel. Like I think he genuinely cares about First Amendment issues.
Yeah,
and I don't think he would do it. I don't think that Mundane Matt is responsible after kind of like his recent and wasn't Mr. Medicor, wasn't he on his second like I heard he was on his second Twitter, and a lot of people got wiped off of Twitter because it was their second their second account. Like Tim got removed for that reason.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't made another account, because they just remove it, you know, because you're not allowed to come back after they banned you. So I haven't bothered.
That blows. I miss having you in our chat.
I was awesome. What can you do?
Yeah.
Oh well.
It's a whole sadder landscape out there now.
Yeah, I feel sorry for all of you guys, because it must be boring as shit without me. But
it's boring now, not only because a bunch of people that I really like are gone, but also because I have ideas for really funny tweets that I just don't tweet because I'm just scared. I just think like the slightest thing is going to get me removed. And now, like, every time that I say fuck or shit, like, I'll say shit with a dollar sign. So
don't say bitch.
I don't say. I think I said like bitch with like an asterisk for a C. Like I always, and I don't like the way that looks. Like, it kind of takes away from like the oomph.
It feels pussy.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just don't feel like I can really, because I'm pretty like bawdy. Like I mean, it's not the only thing I do, but it's an aspect of my humor and who I am.
That's the only thing Twitter's good for, is talking shit. I mean, if they don't let us talk shit, it's useless.
I just need a fucking blue check, then I can do anything.
I never bothered to try to get one.
Yeah, I don't even know how you go about it. Like, Richard Spencer fucking got one, so it can't be the most impossible thing in the world.
No, I think you just apply for it and fill something out. That's what Cat Black was saying.
Okay.
I never got my play button from YouTube when I hit 100,000 subscribers. I'm like, just junk to junk up my apartment. Who gives a shit?
Well,
Who needs trophies?
not me.
No, it's useless.
All right. Well, I think maybe like in a little bit we should start thinking about wrapping it up, because I've got a little bit of work to do before the end of the night.
I gotta take my dogs out. I have so many dogs. My life is poop and pee all day long. Poop and pee. From wake to sleep, clean up, poop and pee. That's all I do. So I have a mess to clean up in there. I know.
Dogs are awesome, though.
Yeah.
I love dogs.
I have an animal sanctuary, so far we have 7 rescue dogs and 6 rescue cats. So we have a house full of this shit.
That sounds like. That sounds great. Though.
Girlfriend or do you like who do you live with?
Oh, I live in a house now. So yeah, I live with my girlfriend in a house now. So we have like this big ass huge house that I bought. That's like, I only paid $15,000 for it, but which is crazy. It's 3,600 square feet. I paid $15,000 for it. That's how cheap the real estate here is in Mississippi. It's insane. So we have this huge room for the cats, and we have this huge room for the dogs, and then we live in another huge room of it. And there's like 3 rooms that are empty. So it's pretty sweet.
Cool. Is that a blue screen behind you or just a blue painted wall?
It's just a blue screen thing that I put up there to cover up. Behind it is my logical fallacies poster that I use in my videos, but I just cover it up for now.
Well, cool. I'm gonna, if it's all right, I'm gonna do just a couple little housekeeping things, let people know. I'll probably have my Rocky video out. I'm doing a series about Rocky, the original movie. So I'll have the second in that series out tomorrow. I also have another hangout on Sunday with Culture Shots and Christy Winters. And that will be about poetry. And so if people want to sort of, I know poetry, awesome, right? But I have a playlist of the sort of poems that we'll be talking about for people who are interested in that. And yeah, that should be Sunday, I think around 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
And you're busy.
Yeah.
You actually work.
So if there's anything you guys want to plug or let people know about.
CultofDusty.com, the greatest site in the history of the internet. And also Cult of Dusty on YouTube. Enjoy me before I get banned permanently.
Yeah. I should have a Creationist Cat video. I was hoping to get it up tomorrow night, but probably like within the next couple of days. I don't want to give away who it is, but someone that we discussed is it's a new format that I'm really excited about. It's called Point Freaking Counterpoint, and it's both CC and I kind of having conversations with one another about a particular person and a few of their videos. So keep an eye out for that, I guess.
Sounds good.
On the Creationist Cat channel.
All right.
And thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too. It was good to talk to you guys and hang out with you.
This sucked, and I hate you both.
All right, that's cool. But Dusty, one of these days, I am going to school you on cultural appropriation.
All right,
so.
can't wait for that. I'm 1/8 Cherokee, so good luck.
All right. So, but I think that we're wrapping up now. And thanks everybody who's in the chat and who's been hanging out for this long ass, just sitting here, going back and forth. That's
shooting the shit.
All right. And
thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.